For today's review, we are looking at the Mcfarlane Collector Edition Hawkgirl. And before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. As you can see, there is this beautiful comic book artwork of the character. On the backside, you do have the read-up for who the character is. Her real name is Kendra Saunders. She debuted in JSA Secret Files and Origins #1 back in August of 1999. It reads, using the power of Nth Metal, Kendra Saunders is Hawkgirl, one of the Justice League's newer recruits. Having no trouble standing shoulder to shoulder with giants, Hawkgirl's fighting spirit and determination has made her feared throughout the galaxy. And that's a pretty good read-up on who this character is. And now let's talk about the accessories that are included with this action figure. Let's start with the interchangeable hands. Just like Wonder Woman and Power Girl, she does come with the same hand accessories that we have seen before. As you can see on the figure, she does have an item holding hand and a fist hand. In the box, you do get another item holding hand and fist hand, so you get two of each hand gesture. She also comes with these two open gesture hands, as I like to call them, because I don't know what these hand gestures signify. So there's that. And this character is also known for using a certain weapon, so she does come with her mace. And the sculpting of her mace is pretty cool. It's very different from the one that came with Hawkman. And by Hawkman, I mean the one from the Black Adam movie, because that's the only version of Hawkman that I have in figure form. And as you can see, his mace has like these spikes on it. As for hers, it's like these circular blunt objects. So it's very different. And that is the comparison with the maces. One thing that they did not do with this figure that I think is quite unfortunate here is that there is no weapon storage option for this mace. As you can see with the photo here, she is carrying her mace on the back part of her belt. It would have been cool if there was some sort of strap that was sculpted for the bottom of the handle, similar to what we see here. The strap doesn't work for anything either, but yeah, something like that. And they could have sculpted some sort of tiny hook thing on the back of her belt, similar to what we see on Wonder Woman here for her lasso. And you could have had a weapon storage option, but they did not bother to do that. So that is unfortunate. And another thing is, there is no effect parts with this mace. If you've watched the cartoons, you would have seen certain episodes where sometimes when she fights with her mace, she can generate powers with it. I don't know if it's electricity or just raw energy, but the point is, if there were some effect parts for the mace, it would definitely make for some cool dynamic poses on the shelf when you get this figure into an action pose. And that's pretty much it for the accessories. There's not a whole lot in this box. All you get are just a few interchangeable hands, a mace, and if you want to count this as an accessory, the regular DC figure stand. In this case, this is a good example where this character can fly. Why didn't they include a flight stand? Make that make sense. All right. That is pretty much all the accessories, and this is not good because this figure was $34.99. That's how much the price have went up for collector edition figures. They are now $34, and with tax you're paying $36. And they are not coming with much accessories. And it's getting worse because a good example would be the pre-orders that went up yesterday for Malcolm Merlin and Dark Stars. If you look at the amount of accessories that they come with, that's not even the bare minimum. And those are $34 figures. This is getting crazy. All right, let's move on to the aesthetics of this figure. And let's start with the wings because I want to talk about that first. So the wings are different. They are not reused wings from the previous times that we have seen them use wings for certain figures. Like, for example, Redeemer and Hawkman, right? Those two share the same wing accessories that we have seen before. For Hawkgirl, they did some retooling here, and they did something different, which is kind of cool. So the overall sculpt details of these wings are similar to how they sculpted those other wings in the past. The details are still the same. But they added articulation this time to the wings to allow for some sort of fun gimmick here. So as you can see, if you rotate this upward, you can make her wings spread out. And it looks really cool. And these wings are not removable. Well, maybe they are if you do some modifications, but from what I can tell from the back part of this figure, and I'm going to zoom into where that's sculpted, these are like sculpted into the back part of her torso. It's not like the usual thing they do with the wings, where in previous cases, it's usually just like these two little portholes on the back, and you would just plug the wings in. And those were not the greatest options because in the long term, because the wings had this sort of like weight to them, they would loosen and just get like pretty much like what's the word, flimsy. They would just like slouch over to one side, and it's just not good. So I'm glad they changed this for this figure, where they sculpted this sort of thing into it so that now it's part of the back part of the torso, so it will not, fall over or anything. Unless you don't take care of this figure in a good way, you could probably break that, but do be careful because it does still add a little bit of top heaviness to the figure because these wings do have weight to them. But I like the gimmick here. You can have her wings fold out like this, and it really does look like, her wings in the comics, and I really like this. So there she is with her wings folded out. And if you don't want them folded out, you can just, rotate them back in. Actually, why am I saying folded out? That's not even the right word. Okay, you can just do that. And the wings here do have articulation, so you can also move them back like this. So you can create some pretty cool dynamic poses with those wings. And I really like the fact that you do have a swivel right there for the wings as well. I don't know if the swivel function is very necessary for this because, it's still limited to how much it can move. But I guess, yeah, if you want the wings to swivel like in this sort of position when she's flying, you can do that as well. The sculpt detail, it could still use a little bit of a wash on it. Like if you do use a little bit of some black wash, which is a sort of paint here, you could probably make some of these details look a little bit more faded so it looks cooler. And that's pretty much all the details of the wings. They look really cool, but they're all pretty much sculpted the same way as what we've seen before. When it comes to the overall sculpt of this Hawkgirl figure, most of the parts on here are of course reusing parts from Wonder Woman and Power Girl. Now they did retool her torso area, which I do want to talk about first because I really like this change. So I guess in the previous two figures, the reason why there was no torso cut here was because they did not want to ruin the costumes. As you can see with Wonder Woman, it would look ugly if there was a cut right there. So they opted for a single torso that just had its articulation down here with the waist. But since Hawkgirl's costume is this tank top that she wears on the top, now they can add this articulation cut back into the figure. So now you have this upper torso articulation as well as a lower waist articulation. And I think this part right here for the stomach is new. I'm not sure if this is like a reuse of an existing part. I don't think I've ever seen this, so that's really cool. So yeah, that's the retool right there for her torso, and I think they did a good job by adding that cut back into it because now it allows for this figure to have even better articulation when it comes to dynamic poses. And in terms of the parts that are, of course, reused, her arms are quite obvious. These are the same arms that we have seen before. And there is some weird discoloration with my copy with the paint. So I don't know if my camera is going to do a good job here picking up the skin tone. But as you can see, the way they painted the butterfly joint and her arms, they don't really match up completely the same. It looks kind of weird, like it throws me off. So there's that little problem right there. And then for her legs, they're the same legs that we've seen on Wonder Woman, and these boots are exactly the same as Wonder Woman. All they did here is just paint the parts that were white with yellow, and that's pretty much it. And now let's talk about the head sculpt. This is a Hawkgirl head sculpt. I mean, just look at that. When you see this mask, you see the face, everything, that is Hawkgirl. As for other details with her head sculpt, I do like the back part of it as well, where you can see these little details that are there. And yeah, it's not a bad looking head sculpt for Hawkgirl. I think they did a really good job here. It captures the look of the character. But of course, it would have been nice if there was an unmasked head sculpt for this character. Because in the cartoons, I believe by Justice League Unlimited, she stopped wearing her mask, and you can see who she looks like underneath the mask. And I'm just saying, like, for a character like this that does wear a mask and sometimes doesn't, it'd be nice to have both head sculpts. So yeah, that's pretty much all the aesthetics for this figure. Most of her costume design is very simple, but the little changes that they did with the torso, the details of her head sculpt, I like how all of that came out. And yeah, moving on into articulation, let's talk about the wings again. So as you can see, they can move outward this way onto the back because it's connected to that joint. There is swivel right here, and these do slide out this way if you just rotate them upward. And again, I love the wings. They just add this sort of dynamic look to the figure, so it's really cool. And these are definitely better wings than the previous ones that we've seen from this line. As for the head sculpt, you can have her look up, so there's that. If you want to get her into some flying poses, that's really cool. When it comes to looking down, that's not the greatest. Turning her head left and right, no problem. Tilting her head side to side, also no problem. So yeah, the articulation with the head sculpt is okay. As for her arms, they can lift out that high up. She can swing them forward. When it comes to swinging back, though, she is going to run into the wings because they are there. However, if you kind of do this, well, there you go. You can also swing them back. So there's that. She does have double jointed in the arms, as you can see. She does have a bicep cut like articulation up here, but it's like really tight, so I can't really get it to move because I haven't heated that up. She does have a wrist articulation and a swivel with her hands. And for her torso, because of this change that they added, now she has a upper torso articulation, and there is rotation. Not bad rotation, so I do like that. And it really does add more to the character's posing when you have this upper articulation cut. I feel like when it's not there, it just limits what you can do with the poses of this figure, or of any figure in general. Now let's talk about the bottom part of this rotation. When it comes to the waist, it is very tight on this copy for some reason. It does not want to move, but it will move if you heat it up. And as you can see, this is what I mean by the top heaviness of her wings. So when you have them folded out, she likes to just fall over to the back like she's leaning backwards. It's because of just how heavy these wings are. They do have a little bit of weight to them. Even if they're not as heavy as you think they are, it still affects the overall balance of the figure. So if you're trying to get her to stand, that is another problem here. This figure does not like to stand when you have her wings either lifted out this way or even when they're on a neutral pose. So not great. When it comes to her legs, you can do a split. Pretty good. In terms of kicking outward, you can get it this high up. That's not too bad. Double jointed in the legs. And of course, you do have articulation in the feet. And you do have swivel and all that stuff. And of course, toe articulation, as I'm forgetting. But, the usual articulation as always. So there it is, the articulation with Hawkgirl. Now it's time for some comparisons. And here she is in an action pose of some kind. I'm going to get her on a flight stand so you can see what she looks like on a flight stand. Here we go. Hopefully it balances. Okay, this is as good as I'm going to get this. Right? Good enough. And here she is next to a few other characters such as Wonder Woman and Power Girl. And as you can see, that's not a bad display with these three characters all together. And if you want her next to Supergirl, here she is next to the Supergirl that we recently got. So yeah, not bad at all. I think they did a really good job with this Hawkgirl figure. She does have some flaws, of course, but for a Hawkgirl figure in 2025, I think this is the best that we'll see for now until, I guess, the foreseeable future. And that's pretty much going to be it for today's review. If you found today's review of the Mcfarlane Collector Edition Hawkgirl informative, do give this video a like. If you want, subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. With that said, take care and I will see you in the next video.